Hey, good morning. I love some actual music. I love it. Sounds like a heavy metal band that we all grew up idolizing.
You got the band together this morning, brother.
We damn right we do. And the maestro will be on about 20 after. Franz Beard. Rob Brown, Buddy Martin show, combining. This is fun, man. We got a team. We're a family. A lot of love here. Lauren Meadows in Alachua County, Gainesville. Ben Troop over in Savannah, the first grid city in America, one of the great seafood cities in America. Brendan Martin, executive producer in Ocala. Buddy Martin in L.A., Lower Alabama, the Panhandle, Panama City. Rob Brown in Memphis. Cold open, literally. Minimum 3 up to 6, 8 inches of snow expected in the Memphis area over the next 48 hours. I am making the run today to Aldi and Costco just to get out and run errands. But we're going to pack this hour previewing the college football playoff. I've got the smartest minds in college football right here. Click that QR code with your camera. Be a subscriber. We're on at the same time on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. We do this mornings. And Buddy Martin show normally it's 9 p.m. Eastern, but we're combining forces this morning for one big happy show because tonight we've got the CFP and tomorrow night. So buckle up, man. Get your pen and paper handy. And Buddy, this is what we love about college football, isn't it?
I do. I'm like that. I'm on her. The Brendan's on her twice this morning too, which is good. Listen, hold on a second. Yeah, Don, put my supper right over here, will you? Oh, wait a minute. It's not supper time. I forgot. It's breakfast time. Hey, guys, good morning to you. And I'm for the first time, I'm juiced. I really am. I was thinking this morning, I'll tell you about it later. 2 other big mornings like this in January in my life that really big things happen. I don't know. I haven't been all that excited, but today I'm ready, guys. How about you?
I mean, if you're not, you're not a football fan. And Lauren, I know you've got a meeting to go to, and Ben, we all do. But tonight, man, 6, 7 o'clock Eastern, it's here, man. That Final Four used to be only 4 teams in here, Lauren.
Yeah, it used to be 4 teams, and it would already be settled pretty much. But now you got Notre Dame and Penn State, and then Texas and Ohio State tomorrow. And we talked about it, blue blood programs. You think about back in the days when both Penn State and Notre Dame were independent. I mean, that was one of the premier football games in the Midwest, at the time. And you got 2 up and coming, well, not up and coming. You say Marcus Freeman is up and coming, and James Franklin has been established. Can James Franklin win the big one? Even though I think he's been pretty successful, but this will be once again a test of James Franklin at Penn State, how far his program has come, and then where Marcus Freeman in a short time has brought Notre Dame to the precipice of the national championship. So, obviously some personal interest as being that Marcus Freeman is a Southwest Ohio guy like myself, know the family, but just knowing what he's going, knowing what he's been through. Knowing what he's been through, and hey, cradle of coaches, buddy, Miami of Ohio, but knowing what Marcus has been through and the changes that he's made, you mentioned it, Rob. Bringing masks back, pregame masks, and things like that has really endeared him to the Notre Dame fan base, and here he is.
Well, I'm with you, man, and. Ben, you look at this matchup. This is the 20th matchup all time between Penn State and Notre Dame, and the series is tied 9-1. A lot of history on the field tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I know James Franklin. I mean, he's come out and made comments about how he don't like that Notre Dame doesn't really have to be in a conference. They don't have to worry about conference championships. But Notre Dame, they are the biggest brand. Like, people can say, who's the biggest brand left in it? That would be Notre Dame. I mean, take nothing away from Texas, Ohio State, Penn State. Notre Dame is a different beast. And, I agree with a lot of things Lauren was saying. Marcus Freeman is doing this for a lot of different reasons. I mean, when he became the head coach and replaced Brian Kelly, a lot of people said, can he win the big one? Well, the last time I believe Notre Dame was in the national championship, I think, for something meaningful, I want to say, Manti Te'o was one of the biggest freaking, storylines, and he had a fake girlfriend. So I just think when you talk about this Notre Dame team, if Marcus Freeman can do the unthinkable and win at Notre Dame, I mean, you talk about Lou Holtz type status. I do like what Coach Franklin has done, but he's gonna have to win the big one for this reason. He still hasn't beaten Ohio State. He still hasn't won, the Big Ten in a while. But this Notre Dame team, they got a quarterback, man, that can utilize his legs and his feet. And obviously, when you talk about Ohio State and Texas, I mean, if Notre Dame is the biggest brand, it doesn't get bigger as far as branding than Ohio State and Texas. When you talk about that level, of notoriety and visibility, but 12 teams still make it. It's something about these blue bloods that still shine in the end. Like taking nothing away from Arizona State and Boise State and those type teams, you're still going to end up with the blue bloods. I keep saying this. The 12-team playoff in college football is similar to the 64-team, when we talk about the NCAA tournament. No matter what happens in the pre-rounds, a blue blood is going to shine in the end until proven wrong. But I am looking forward to the games. When people ask me, am I rooting for Texas because they belong to SEC school? The answer is no, but I do give them a lot of credit for what Texas had done. Sarkisian, being the head coach at Texas. But I'm happy for these guys. I think that when you start talking about why this college football playoff, model is going to work, because you're giving a lot more teams a chance to actually be seen. So I am looking forward to it. The game still got to be played. I don't like Coach Franklin saying stuff. I don't like when you say things like Notre Dame needs to be in the conference. Well, the ACC been saying that for years. They are in the conference. They just don't have to live by it in football. Basketball, they got to live by it. Baseball, they got to live by it. But I am looking forward to the games. I think Marcus Freeman doesn't get enough credit for how far he's come in such a short amount of time. Because at first, people were kind of like, is he the guy? Because of who was replacing. Well, I think he is the guy. And I think he's built for it. Notre Dame is a different type beast when you're trying to coach there and play there. But I'm looking forward to the games. Like I said, if it does end up being, Notre Dame, Ohio State, that's like Yankees versus Red Sox. That's some big time stuff. But we'll see what happens though. Like I said, Penn State is here for a reason. Notre Dame's here for a reason. They first up. But somewhere, like I said, college football is in a better place when they're out there on the field getting it done. No one's talking about transfer portal. No one's talking about NIL. No one's talking about how these young men are ruining the sport. When you kick the ball off, in the words of Franz Beard, it is idiot-proof. It is moron-proof. So I'm looking forward to these games starting tonight, man, and we'll see what happens.
Let me jump in here on this thing. First of all, again, good morning, everybody. It's a great day to do this, having our family together. Franz will join us later. I want my guys on here right now. First of all, I'm a college football romantic, basically. And I've kind of fallen in and out of college football. And I kind of got bored this year, but I'm back. And I love this traditional part of it. The fact that it's Notre Dame, wake up the echoes. The Four Horsemen. You guys looked that up, that famous Grantland Rice lead.
Yep.
Again, blue, gray, October sky, the Four Horsemen wrote again. And they named the four guys. That's a good test for you. And even Ohio State, yes, Lauren, I hear you. I hear what you're talking about. I'm aware of the fact that the cradle of college football is in Miami, not in Dayton. I know all about that history quite well. Even in some weird way, I almost hate to bring this up, the ghost of Joe Pa. Penn State was good for a long time. Some bad things went on in that program. How complicit was Joe Paterno? I guess history will judge that. I do know the connection for me goes back when Joe Pa was an assistant coach and the head coach was Rip Engel. And he had a niece named Jerry Starr who became Jerry Spurrier. And then one day, Steve Spurrier got to play against Joe Pa and beat him. Anyway, those things. And I think that's so overlooked, the newest star. We don't like to say it. Swallow hard and say Texas. Hook 'em horns, Bevo's back and all that kind of stuff. And don't forget, 4th and 13, what a call. So I just want to put that in there. Right now, I'm loving Notre Dame. I really like them. I don't know if they can win, but I want Texas to win because I want the SEC guys to have 14 out of 18 national champions. That's as good as it gets.
Yeah, and I'm with you. And going to a Catholic all-boys school, Christian Brothers High School in Memphis, Our colors were purple and gold helmets. The Notre Dame influence, there's two schools in the country that when you're playing them, it's probably the biggest game of the year, most likely, and maybe the biggest game ever on campus. That's Notre Dame and Alabama. So the tradition never graduates. That's an old buddy. You remember Haywood Harris and Bud Ford at Tennessee? That was their line. And you look at that Notre Dame brand, not in a conference. Well, they don't have to be. They have a ton of money. They can afford to do whatever they want. Notre Dame's endowment is huge. And so that's why Notre Dame does what they do. But Ben, which one of you, Ben or Lauren, talked about Marcus Freeman? In 3 years, he's better than 10 years of Brian Kelly. And I say that because look at the toughness. You know what the true measure of a coach or a person is? After you get sucker punched, you get your ass up, you fight back. That loss to Northern Illinois could have crippled him. Yeah. And I'm just Marcus Freeman, Catholic convert, 6 kids, brought back game day mass. This guy is as big a Notre Dame guy as Rockney or Leahy.
I don't know about that, but he's big.
I'm just saying,
sure.
But he loves Notre Dame, and that's a big.
I get you on that, and you can kind of come into this thing a lot of different ways. You're Catholic or you're whatever. Good morning to France Beard and my friends Lauren and Ben. I want to get into this subject before Lauren has to go, and very quietly, we've got African American coaches playing for an SEC. That's not talked about much. I've had conversations with both of you about race, deep conversations. We talked about it, and you've educated me on some things. So let me just say good morning to France. And then before we get away, Lauren, I'd like to hear yours and Ben's thought about that. Is that even a thing anymore? So that's my thoughts.
Well, it's absolutely a thing. And anybody that wants to ignore it, shame on you. I mean, it does speak that it's not the big thing, but the fact that you're going to have for the first time an African-American coach playing for a national title in college football is a big deal, just like it was a big deal when guys like, Tubby Smith and Nolan Richardson won their titles in basketball. Those things matter. It just speaks to, if you want to spin a positive, it speaks to how far we've come as a country, as a society, because at one time, coaches weren't getting these opportunities. I mean, who would have thought that at one point in time, Notre Dame, who, has been labeled in a lot of different ways, would have it, they had Tyrone Willingham, but now you have Marcus Freeman here, and he's brought this program once again to the doorstep. Even the community that Marcus Freeman comes from, Huber Heights, Ohio, is a very diverse community, but for him to represent them in this manner at Notre Dame, I mean, it matters. James Franklin, a place like Penn State, who had Joe Paterno for so long, and, obviously had never had an African-American coach. For him to be in that area of the country, building a program, getting them to this point, and then them playing each other, you heard the admiration that they have for one another. It's a huge deal. I mean, at one time, you would have coaching staffs that would have maybe 1, maybe 2 African-Americans on the staff. Now you look at a staff like Florida, and it's littered with people of color. And you have to appreciate not only that Florida is that way, but that Billy Napier is taking the time to have a diverse staff and things like that. So it's not something that you want to beat over the head, but it is a, it's a big deal. And the fact that, I think what's ignored, and I guess it will come up if it works out that way, should Notre Dame and Ohio State both win, you also have Marcus Freeman leading Notre Dame, the Catholic convert, against his alma mater, Ohio State. I mean, you talk about romanticism, buddy. Yeah. I mean, that is it. Woo! Marcus Freeman comes home to face Ohio State. So there's so many storylines, but you have to appreciate the fact that we are going to have a first in this national championship game, no matter the outcome.
Well, Ben? Yeah, Ben.
No, I mean, I agree with everything Lauren said. I mean, I think the thing about it is, I mean, it is abnormal until we continue to normalize it. And look, I mean, guys like Coach Franklin and Marcus Freeman, they understand. They understand they're going to get questions that only they're going to get, but they know that if they don't finish the job, they're going to say, well, he was good, but I mean, there's a reason why Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season in the National Football League, because eyes on him is always going to be different, regardless of how many Super Bowls he's won or hasn't won or gone to. I appreciate that Coach Franklin and Coach Marcus Freeman don't run from it, because certain coaches, they don't want to talk about it. They understand it, but I appreciate not running from it, because look, it was a monumental time when Lovie Smith, and Tony Dungy played each other in the Super Bowl. They're best friends, and they played each other in the Super Bowl. It is significant when people say, why people keep talking about it? Because until it is normalized, we got to keep talking about it. And it's getting more normal as the years goes on. And I'm going to say this. When people say, well, Ben, what do you ultimately want to see when you talk about black coaches? I want black coaches to be able to be as mediocre as a white coach and keep their job. That is when it is normal. When they can be mediocre, not win, keep their job. And I'm not saying I'm looking for nobody to be average, but it's a lot of average that goes around in coaching. But when you a certain skin tone, you don't get the same privileges of that. And that's what I'm saying. And so, but when you at Notre Dame, like, think about it. Marcus Freeman goes around the country. You the head coach of Notre Dame. Yeah, Notre Dame football. And we pretty freaking good. So one of them is going to win the national championship. I'm rooting for both of those guys, no matter who it is. But yeah, buddy, and let me say this to you, buddy, while we have you here. I appreciate you even talking to me and Lauren about these issues, because you do not have to do this. So let me give you your flowers for even, wanting to know, because when you first approached me about these things, you talk about, taking it back. I mean, the respect I have for you grows every day, but the fact that you really wanted to know, like, man, I just want to know, because I think the thing about these conversations, they're not hard to have. It's just, you're not going to get me and Lauren, we ain't going to start these conversations, but we'll, you taught us about it. Let's go, because we understand it. I mean, it doesn't stop though. Journalism, it's the same thing. No matter what we do, we going to be, particularly looked upon as different ways. But I just think that, the Rob Browns of the world, the Franz Beers of the world, the Buddy Martins of the world, sometimes, you chasing a different level of validation, man, when you got melanin in your skin, until you realize, man, you built for it. And while you shouldn't be a representation of your entire race, that's how certain people are going to see you, whether that's warranted or unwarranted. But, man, I appreciate these conversations, because it's always going to be a different level of significance. I mean, so when you start talking about, why Marcus Freeman and Coach Franklin are beloved, it's because half of what they do, half of how they look. And the people say otherwise, they lying. Because most people don't know what they know that Penn State is in Pennsylvania. What city is it in? I don't know. They know that Notre Dame is in Indiana. Where is that in Indiana? I don't know. I just know it's
South Bend.
Right. So
well,
where's Happy Valley? Where the heck is Happy Valley?
Where's Happy Valley?
And somewhere along the line, buddy, I don't know if you heard this. They say that Marcus Freeman grew up rooting for the Braves. You don't want to tell nobody.
Oh.
Well, hey, and the other thing is to point out is James Franklin owned it. I mean, he said in an interview early at his time at Penn State, I want to be the first African-American head coach to win a national championship. So he's owned it. He understands it. And like I said, I think we just one more notch on the belt for society and where we've grown and where this thing could continue to grow. And we now have, guys sharing locker rooms, living together. It's a beautiful thing, man, when people act right.
We've got to get to a point in time where heads don't turn. I grew up in the 60s, and we had a 3-year exile family-wise to Mississippi at the height of the Civil Rights Act. And I learned from a different perspective, because I came from Gainesville, which had the first black mayor of any southern city, a guy named Neil Butler. The very first, we had the first black quarterback at a high school in the South, Eddie McShann, my dear friend, who I played basketball with at GHS. And we went to Mississippi, which was like the Dark Ages. And, I've grown up understanding these things, seeing these things. and realizing that we've got to get to a point where when you walk to the mall and you see an interracial couple, you don't see heads going like this. I mean, like, it's got, when are we going to start looking at things like as just normal, and when are we going to look at something like an African American coach winning a national championship or being in contention for one as something that's normal? Because anybody who wants to say, the old adage used to be that, okay, we in the NFL, and Buddy can remember this, the old adage in the NFL was, okay, we can have blacks at every position except center and quarterback. There was a stigma there, and that was going on in the 1970s. And Mr. Stevenson came from Alabama and changed that in the NFL. A center who was black and was outstanding. And you look at the black quarterbacks that have come along. I'll never forget being at Buddy. You remember we were at the same press conference when Doug Williams was asked how long he'd been a black quarterback.
Yeah.
Wow.
I never did hear the answer on that, by the way, but yeah, you're right.
His answer was all my life.
All my life, yeah.
Well, people, look, you know what? I go back to conversations I've had with coaches over the years, and Pat Dye Jr. is going to come up here in a couple of weeks and go hunting with me. And when his dad was buried, the day after he died, he was buried in khaki pants, cowboy boots, and a button-down shirt, and 5 of his 6 pallbearers were black men. And Bo Jackson gave the eulogy. And, that scene of Chico, I know Chico, he works out there at the farm, driving that wagon with his body in a pine box, literally, buried under one of the Toomer's Corner oaks. He says, I want my seed to be around here a long damn time. But that shows you what it's like. And Coach Dye, I got to talk to him about this when he was at Alabama. When he got the call from Coach Bryant, who was out in Arizona, and John McKay told him during lunch, he said, Paul, we're going to sign the 2 best players in Alabama. And Coach Bryant was pretty smart and was like, who is that? And one of them was a guy named Wilbur Jackson out of Ozark, Alabama, down in the Wiregrass. True story. Coach Dye said, I happened to be the lucky one when his secretary said, Coach Bryant's on the phone. He wants to talk to somebody right now. And he said, go down there and sign that man. And he goes, I went down there. I remember he grew up in Blythe, Georgia, over there near Augusta, Ben. You know where Blythe is?
Yes, sir.
Okay. He said, I grew up, we were sharecroppers. We had 3,000 acres, half families black, half white. We spent the night at their house. They spent the night at our house. He goes, and that famous quote he gave, the 8-part series, Saturdays Down South.
Yes.
And they were talking about after World War II, you had a choice. You could play football or try to go to college on the GI Bill. And Coach Dye said, come to think of it, I ain't ever been segregated a day in my life. And I watched him interact with people his entire career, his whole life. I mean, when you're real, you can't hide it. And you know what? I'm with friends. To me, just send me the best people. I didn't even think about it. I'm just going, Marcus Freeman, I could be blind and know that guy can coach. Same thing with James Franklin. Hey, if you can win 9 games back-to-back at Vanderbilt, you're a pretty damn good coach, because that's like having a great hockey team in Lake Okeechobee.
Yeah, but it's like
in the
Ben
muck.
said, but can they survive a mediocre season?
Yeah,
And
that's the best point I've heard.
The
Yeah.
big point that I think is now we get equality. I'll tell you how stupid I am. I didn't realize James Franklin was black. I didn't know that. I mean, that's hello.
But see, that's how far
we
we've
just light
come.
skin, man.
That's how far
We call that high yellow. In
I know. I ain't
community,
saying
high
I wouldn't
yellow.
say that.
That's high yellow. We call that that's if it's high yellow if it's a guy, and it's a red bone if it's a woman.
Yes,
I ain't going there.
Hey, I'm just here to educate you, buddy. That's all.
I know.
Even
But you know something?
TMI.
when I'm with the Titans,
There's something good though in what Buddy just said here, and that's he said he didn't realize that James Franklin was black. I mean, when are we going to get to a point where I can say Ben Troop is my friend, and people don't think of Ben Troop as the black tight end, formerly Gator tight end who's black, or that Lauren Meadows is my friend, and he is the fine black guy that's always at the softball games and everybody loves him. When are we going to get to a point where it's just, hey, that's Lauren? Everybody likes Lauren.
Yeah, hey, right. You know, Franz, here's the other thing. We're going to get to a point where Ben Troop can go into a place and go to a bar and hold up a picture of Buddy Martin and say, "This is my uncle."
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
Look,
I noticed the family resemblance right off the bat.
The thing about it is too, when you start talking about these type of conversations, you know, a conversation that blew my mind. Like I didn't even know this happened. You know, BJ Bennett is obviously, you know, best friend in the world. You know, when I'm living in Brunswick, Georgia, just back and forth to his parents' house, right? Back and forth to his mom and dad's house, you know, and BJ Bennett daddy, man, I mean, you know, I'm talking about hunt every Saturday. Love Papa B. Right? Love Papa B, man. Hunts if it's hunting season, he's over there in Southwest Georgia hunting. I don't care if it's cold, hot, he's over there doing it. When I used to go to his house, man, there was a lot of stuff in there about the Civil War. A lot. And I mean, I respect it. You know, that's his house, right? That's his house. He put, I didn't feel no type of way about it. No type of way. Right? One day I go up in his house and all this stuff is gone. All of it. He took it all down. Now, I didn't ask him to do that. I wasn't offended by it. BJ had to tell me he did it, right? He said, Ben, you stay, because for people who don't know, when I first moved to Brunswick, Georgia, you know, I didn't have nowhere to stay. I stayed in BJ Bennett's parents' living room. And with the rent these days, I mean, I'm married now. My wife ain't gonna want to stay in the living room, but I'm just saying I would still be there. And I just think about when BJ told me he took the stuff down, and I didn't really ask him why, but he was like, well, Ben, he said he didn't see the need anymore. Like he didn't see the need of it anymore. And in my mind, I would have tried to affect Papa B. I would have tried to, I don't do this, man. What's wrong with you? I don't do all that, man. I understand we grew up in different traditions, man. We love what we love, right? Yeah. But it's when Papa B comes up to me and say, Ben, I apologize. Because I know you used to come to my house and I said, man, this is your house. Privacy of you invited me in to your house. I say that to say, when friends say, how do we get to a point to where when people go, that's just Ben or that's just Lawrence, the only way it's going to happen, you have to be around us. You have to. Because then you ain't getting that. I have to be around Buddy Martin to tell people, no, I know him. I know Lauren. I mean, I know Rob Brown, or I know, Franz Beard. Because what happens is when people don't know you, man, they can only get what they know from you from, perception and what people say. No, ignorance is ignorance. I don't care who it is. Dumb is dumb. I don't care who it is. Stupidity is stupidity. But when we can get to a point to where we say, oh, man, that's a person first. Before you see anything, I see his humanity. I see her humanity. And when we get to that point, man, who knows what can happen? Because like I say, as a person that went to Florida, I just wanted to be in that big room. I knew who Buddy Martin was. I got to meet Franz Beard my senior year. Franz Beard and Buddy Martin never said, excuse me, black football player, tell me about, no. They said, Ben, what would you like to be called? Ben or Benjamin? And so you guys have no clue how, Franz and Rob and Brendan and Buddy, being seen as what you are does more for you than anything else in this life. So I appreciate you guys, for one, being willing to step up and say the things like, if somebody say, well, Buddy Martin, Ben Troop is not your grandson. He go, who? It says who? So he look at him and look at me. I'm telling you, man, if I would have been filming that place when I was in that spot in Savannah and I pulled out, I showed a picture of Buddy. I said, man, this is my grandfather right here, man. This is my people. The guy was like, and I was like, what you trying to say? We don't look alike? And the guy was so taken, it is 2024, so people, you can't say nothing. Everybody get offended by everything. The guy behind the bar said, I see the family resemblance. I see it. He said, I got a grandfather as dark as you. And when the guy walked out, we both just laughed. But, if Buddy Martin was indeed my grandfather, if Franz Beard was indeed my uncle, man, I would be honored when it comes to stuff like that. So hey, man, I just appreciate these conversations because, like I say, without sport, I wouldn't have known you guys, and you guys wouldn't have known me. That's what Ron Zook say. He say sport is the greatest introduction that any man or woman can have because the world gets introduced to you through your athletic ability. It is your job to show them who you really are after the fact. So I appreciate the after the fact. And yes, if you want to know who Lauren Meadows is, just ask. Listen, they like you talking about the chocolate fella, right? They be at the game. I know. You know what I'm saying? I know, and that's another thing too. But when you tell somebody, yeah, Ben's kind of like Ben's more like mahogany. Lauren is more like
whatever. Smoke. Don't start. Just shut up, dude. Like, okay, thank you, preacher. I got you, brother. That's okay. We can mix it up.
Yes, sir.
I wear a black cowboy hat. What do you think about that?
Yeah, hey man, Brendan, you right. Just listen, just don't put on no Florida Marlins on it. Don't mess that hat up with no Florida Marlins stuff.
That's a Hewlett and Dunn hat.
There was a poem years ago written by an NBA player who played for they were then the San Francisco Warriors, not the Golden State Warriors. He wrote this poem, and I remember the last line of it, and I've never forgotten it. He said their sweat was the same color. You think about that for a second. You know, what's on the exterior may look different, and fortunately it does, because I'd hate it if we all looked alike. I really would. As much, I mean, I'd like to be tall and handsome like Lauren, and have a body like Ben. Like I'd love to have all that. But here's the thing about it. You look at athletes out there, they get out there and they're playing hard. We shouldn't be saying, well, the black wide receiver or the, how many people came up to you guys, Ben and Lauren, and said, can you believe that guy at Arizona State, that running back, is a white guy?
I have heard you say that. I've heard that said.
I've heard that 100 times.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, what the hell,
France, give me a interruption. I'll get back. I would jump in real fast and say thank you to all our sponsors. I know we got some QR codes up there and stuff. I want to thank Meldon Law as my great sponsor, Meldon Law, where they won't back down, and they have offices to serve you in Ocala, Gainesville, Williston, and Lake City. So if you need any help, give them a call, go online. Also, while I'm here, let me just thank Titan MRI, now changed the imaging, Titan MRI and imaging. It will serve you in the Gainesville area, now expanding, being Ocala soon, and finally, Restar Medical Research. Thanks to all those good folks in Ocala. And now, here's what I want to say. Ben, first of all, thank you for the kind words you said about Franz and I. We appreciate that. We're a work in progress. We're still trying to learn. And secondly, I want to make clear, you talk about Papa, about TJ's, about your friend's dad. He's a hell of a writer too. I want to say that. I want to be sure to mention Steve Spurrier in this context. The first year he was in South Carolina, one of the first couple of months, one of the first things he did, he was asked to come and speak to a group. And he went. He didn't realize at the time they were all, of course, South Carolina boosters. They were all black. And he went in and sat down. He spoke to them, and he was asked, Coach Spurrier, what about that Confederate flag flying over the State House? Is that ever going to be dealt with? And Steve had to make a decision right then and there. And he said something I'll always remember. He said, it offends people for a good reason. Take it down. It needs to be taken down. You know how bold that was to say back then? Take it down. Take down the Confederate flag over the State House in Columbia, South Carolina. Great respect for Steve for having the courage to speak up. Those not easy things to do, guys.
No doubt. No doubt. And, I think that if you not to get all into it, but I think that that's one thing that's probably been overlooked a little bit more is Spurrier's influence in that actually occurring in South Carolina. I mean, the pressure was there, but when Coach Spurrier and the cachet that he carries, spoke out on that, I think it made a big deal, So definitely.
I'll tell you how things were, and this just goes back to 26 years ago. 1999 recruiting class, Florida is. Everybody knows that Anquan Bolden is going to be a Gator. Everybody knows that. But on signing day, he announces he's going to be at Florida State, and everybody is shocked. And the people around him in Pahokee say it's because Steve Spurrier will never, ever play a black quarterback. He's going to change him to a wide receiver. He goes up to FSU, and on day 3 of fall practice, guess what Anquan Bolden moves from? Quarterback to wide receiver. And this just goes to show you how race was used and injected in this. And Steve always had this philosophy that if you're a quarterback in high school and you come to Florida, okay, we'll let you try to be a quarterback. But if you make the decision to wide receiver, it'll be your decision, not mine. We may suggest it, but you're the one's going to have to say, yeah, I'll do it. And this, I'm still offended by how that was used, because Anquan Bolden, as Ben can tell you, because Ben played on the opposite side of the field from him. Anquan Bolden was a fabulous player. He would have made a great Gator. He would have made a greater Gator than he ever was a Seminole. I guarantee you that. Because if he had been part of Spurrier's offense, he would have gotten his shot at quarterback. And if he had become a wide receiver, it would have been his decision. He went to Florida State, and guess what they did? They're the ones that made the decision, not Anquan Bolden.
All right, tonight, Notre Dame, Penn State. Lauren, before you go, we all know Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois, but they bounced back after the guys from DeKalb, Illinois, beat them. Penn State can't beat Ohio State. And they lost to Oregon in the Big Ten championship. Tonight, this matchup, it's going to be a hell of a game. Riley Leonard as a quarterback out of Fairhope, ignored by the in-state schools, Auburn and Alabama and Troy and everybody else, goes to Duke. Now he's at Notre Dame. What's his strength? He's not a great passer. He's a hell of an athlete. I think they're going to try to get him involved in the running game. But damn, you look at Penn State's defensive front, talk about strengths, weaknesses, and before you go, give us a score, a prediction, because I think it's going to be a hell of a game. I think it's going to be a close game.
Yeah, I'm going to go Penn State 21, Notre Dame 17. I think that the tight end is the difference at Penn State, their ability to move him around, Mackey Award winner. And I think Drew Aller does enough, offensively to get him. But I'm with you. I'm thinking 5 scores total in the game, and I'll take Penn State 21, Notre Dame 17.
And of course, I picked last week Georgia 20, Notre Dame 17. Georgia didn't get that memo. they were Notre Dame just blew them up, guys.
I think Penn State's better than people give them credit for. And I'll say, I mean, there was a couple near misses in that Oregon game that would have delivered them the Big Ten championship. And they just, a couple things. I think Oregon kind of blitzed them a little bit with some speed that they hadn't seen in a while. And it was kind of, they kind of played Ohio State maybe a little earlier. If they'd have played Ohio State a couple weeks before, maybe it would have been they might have been able to catch up. But I just think that they weren't able to catch up to Oregon fast enough. And by the time they did, it was too late. But I think they've settled in now, and I think Penn State will play Ohio State for the national title, be all Big Ten national title game.
Boy, that's going to be a tough one for all of us down here to swallow. Ben, I mean, gosh dang.
See you guys later.
Lauren, thank you, man. Hook 'em. I'm SEC guy. Look over my shoulder. That's my SEC map. I need to get Florida color gets lost in that map. You see it over there?
I see it. Yeah, I see it.
I need a much bigger representation. I've got my Barnwood Brenda to make. I'm getting her to make me a big thing of Florida. It's going to be cool. She said she can do it. Ben, line of scrimmage. Let me say something real quick about winter timber, man. Open every day of the week. Athens, Alabama. They're going to grow all over the Southeastern Conference footprint. Everything you need for hunting, dove hunting, duck hunting, big game hunting. You want to go out west, shoot you an elk. Hell, you get a tag in Arkansas or Tennessee. They issue about 12 to 15 of them a year. You can do it. Athens, Alabama. Go to Winter Timber. Check out what they've got right now. Rete, Masimara, GPS, buy one, get one free. Take a picture of that QR code. They're a big Sitka dealer. They got all the gear you need, all the stuff for your food plots, decoys, shotgun shells. I love the Migra ammunition loads. Migra folds them like a napkin. Great, great store. Winter Timber Outdoors. Follow them, get involved, let them know you heard about it on Sidelines. Ben, line of scrimmage, Penn State versus Notre Dame. Who has the edge?
I do think Penn State has the edge, but I saw what Notre Dame was able to do to reestablish a different line of scrimmage against the Georgia offensive line that's very, very, very good year in and year out. And I know that when it comes to this game, people talk about Riley Leonard and what he's able to do. What he lacks throwing the football, he definitely makes up running the football. And he is a good athlete. He understands how to move the chains. And the one thing that nothing is more demoralizing to a defensive line than those first downs. It's about first downs, then touchdowns. Riley Leonard is understanding how to play within the confines of their scheme. And I love what Penn State has done to get to this point. But I disagree with Lauren when he says Penn State is going to beat Notre Dame, because Penn State does not want the whole world to see them versus Ohio State. They want to get to the net. They don't want the whole. It's one thing when Big Ten fans know. Then the whole world is going to know. I just think that Marcus Freeman understands that his path to the national championship is always going to be different because he's not in the conference. Sorry, Coach Franklin, he's not going to be in the conference. And Penn State, they're going to get great recruits year in and year out, but it's so rare for him to be in this position because Penn State got the conference championship to get in. He has the regular season. I just think that Notre Dame, that loss to Northern Illinois, reshaped this team. Now, every team in it has a loss, which I think is good for any team. That's why Oregon lost, because they hadn't lost to anybody. But I think Notre Dame was just playing for something different. I think Riley Leonard is showing everybody, look, man, I'm not going to be, anybody's, number one overall pick in any draft. Yeah. But I can put on my best, college football cape and say, hey, this might be my last chance to show, what I'm capable of, in college. So yeah, I think Notre Dame defensive line is good. It's not as good as Penn State's, but I just think that when you got a mobile quarterback like Riley Leonard, he makes up for it. Because like I said, if you go back to that Georgia game, what Georgia gonna remember the most is that we could not keep him in the pocket. And every time on a crucial third down, he's running for it, not throwing for it. I got Notre Dame beaten. It is going to be a good game, and I love the fact that the John Mackey Award winner does play for Penn State. If Notre Dame doesn't come in the game plan to stop the tight end and force Penn State to beat them with someone else, that's shame on them. Which I'm always biased to the tight end, but I just think Notre Dame, you can beat Georgia, you can beat anybody. I don't care if they got Gunnar Stockton or not. Gunnar Stockton doesn't play defense. You can beat Georgia. You can beat anybody. I think Notre Dame has come, I think it's been a harder trek for them for who they had to play. I'm going to go with them Notre Dame boys to beat Penn State. And Coach Franklin, look, you want to be the first. If you can't be the first African-American, coach to win the national championship, you can lose to the first one. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah, I agree with most of what Ben said there. And I think I'm Notre Dame. Think about it. Notre Dame has how many consecutive wins they got and now and
10, 12.
10, and including over in Everton, Indiana, and number 2 Georgia. I picked Georgia in that game too, Rob. I thought they were more dominant. I got to tell you, Georgia was Notre Dame, and Notre Dame was Georgia. Notre Dame has got a physical team that well coached, well disciplined, talented athletes, speed, and they got a heck of a young coach, a guy I think has got a brilliant future. I got to give it up for Marcus Freeman. He's my guy. I'm going with him in this game. This is like for SEC fans. This is like, which way do you want to die? Firing squad or noose? You know, I mean, you're going to have to deal with either the Big Ten or Notre Dame. And you think about that. So Texas carries the colors. I'm an SEC loyalist. I'm going to go with Texas in this game. Yeah. I'm going to go with Notre Dame. And I hate to say it, I don't think they could do it. I'm going to pick Texas, but I think Notre Dame might win it all.
I've already picked Ohio State to beat Texas, although I want Texas to win. I got a lot of Texas friends. But everybody in Memphis, here in Arkansas, we're right together. They're like, God help us if Texas wins the national championship. They said, Rob, you don't understand these Texas people. And I said, I do. They said, no, you don't. They have taken over the University of Arkansas. There's so many of them. But you got to remember, we were up in Fayetteville. The president of Arkansas explained this to me, Chancellor Robinson. He said, all these people that used to leave Arkansas to go to Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston, and Austin, and San Antonio to work, they've raised families, they got kids, they want to go back to Arkansas. That's why. So it's going to be crazy. But, Ben, I think something true, and, you may know it, buddy, friends. By the way, awesome show, bunch of ass-kicking commentary. We don't hold back. We're truth brokers on here. That's what I call Roman Harper, the truth broker. Love that guy too. Riley Leonard, I think, Ben, is a great lacrosse player. I've learned a lot about him from my friends in Alabama. Great athlete, but Notre Dame tries really hard, France, to get him involved in the running game to the point where they do it. And buddy, you're right. And Notre Dame blew Georgia up on the line of scrimmage, despite not having 3 of their best defensive linemen in that game. That's the scary thing about Notre Dame, friends.
Well, here's the thing. I'm going with the Fighting Franklins tonight. And the reason I am is this. Take a look at Notre Dame's receiving stats. Notre Dame receivers average 10 yards per catch. 10. That's not good.
No.
You cannot beat Penn State if you're not explosive. Penn State's 2 losses. Who are they against?
Ohio State and Oregon,
which had Jeremiah Smith on one side and I can't pronounce his name on the other. 2 NFL wide receivers. Look what Oregon did. Oregon had the speed. The James kid was just brilliant. And they ran him out of the backfield on those wheel routes, and they won the game with that. Notre Dame can be reduced to pedestrian. They really can. If you can contain Riley Leonard, they are toast.
Yeah.
And
true.
I think Drew Allar is a better quarterback and has more upside than Riley Leonard. I think Riley Leonard has gotten publicity that he deserves. But let's face it, the Notre Dame hype machine is still really, really big. Drew Allar is kind of under the radar, but this is a guy that I've been watching him since last year, and I've watched his growth, and his growth pattern is like this, and he's coming back next year. He could be a Heisman Trophy quarterback next year. He really could. They've got 2 wide receivers with speed. If they block for him, he will win this game because they're going to go vertical this way. And then here comes Tyler Warren with 98 catches.
And there's a real reason you're picking Penn State. I know you love number 44.
Tyler Warren he has caught 98 passes for more than 1,200 yards. He has rushed for more than 200 yards. He's thrown 16 passes. They run him on fake punts. He has punted. This is a guy the ultimate Swiss Army knife. And I don't know that Notre Dame can account for him. And I look at this. Georgia was not a good team this year. Their offensive line vastly overrated. They played Notre Dame with Gunnar Stockton, who would be the second string quarterback at just about every SEC school. There's a reason he was the second string quarterback at Georgia, but he would also be the second string quarterback anywhere he played in the Southeastern Conference. Anywhere, even Kentucky, he would have been the second string quarterback. So I look at this as, yes, Notre Dame was impressive against Georgia, but this was not a good Georgia football team. And I'm afraid for Georgia fans, of course, I'm kind of happy with it, that they're going to go through a cycle of a lot of 9-3 years. Rob, if you remember, I was on your show. I was on this show back in August, and I said Georgia would probably lose 3 football games this year.
You did.
You did.
And Georgia was not that good, even with Carson Beck, who who was at the Manning Passing Academy, and they had him way, way down on their list of who was outstanding at their camp. They didn't like him. They didn't like his attitudes. They didn't like his skill set. So this wasn't a good Georgia team.
Well, I picked them to win the SEC from the beginning, but they were not. This was the best coaching job Kirby ever did, but not his best team, buddy.
Yeah, I just want to say, what's the one thing these 4 teams have in common, which nobody's really talked about? Think about it for a second. I do like Notre Dame a lot, but I got to pull for Texas. What's the thing? What sticks out now that we've gotten down to? Rob, you probably know this. How many games were played during the year in college football? I don't know. Remember how many? We got 3 left now.
I know what it is.
I'm not counting the North Dakota State deal. How many?
What I do know these 4 teams have in common.
Yeah, but how many teams? How many games do we play in a year in college football?
12 regular season.
No. Total number of games played in college football. I tried to go. Maybe you
regular season.
No, total games played in college football for the year, including the FCS, whatever it's called, Monday night.
About 3,200.
I don't know. We're guessing, but the point is, what you're going to say, and you're going to say this: none of these 4 teams won their conference. None of them.
Yeah.
And of course, there isn't one for Notre Dame in football. So I don't know what that tells us, but that's something to think about.
All right, Coach Ellis Johnson from Winnsboro, South Carolina. He comes on the show Monday mornings with us. Longtime defensive coordinator in the SEC and head coach. He said also, I think, and if I'm mistaken, Coach Johnson, I'll drop and give you 20. I think these 4 teams are in the top 10 scoring defenses in the country. That's what I think another common thread is. And Ben, I always remember the great matchups with an outside linebacker and a tight end. The immovable force move versus the immovable object. Great matchups like that. The tight end position. Everybody says we're going to emphasize it, but most people they don't do it. But if you can, and by the way, you played in the NFL. Brock Bowers, Napa, California. What's his ceiling? I mean, just as an aside to this, because he's incredible.
I mean, if he goes to a team, if he goes to a good team, oh man, he can help a team. I mean, he has. I mean this. He has Travis Kelce, George Kittle type impact on a team. But as long as he stays with the Raiders, he's Tony Gonzalez. He gonna break a bunch of records. He ain't going to no Super Bowls. He Antonio Gates. He has that type of ability. And the thing about Brock Bowers is, this kid from the time he got to Georgia to now, You know, people like, hey, people gonna talk about Stetson Bennett this and Stetson Bennett that. What you gonna remember the most about them championship years? Brock Bowers were unstoppable. Just ask Auburn.
Yeah,
Auburn should have won the game. They forgot to cover him,
yeah.
and the rest is history. But I am happy for him. I think the thing about a guy like Brock Bowers, you know, if they get him a quarterback in there, not named Gardner, I think he's got a shot to be even better than he was this year. But I'm happy for the man. And even talking about the tight end position, there used to be a time to where you didn't even know what a tight end was. He's just a bigger receiver that, you know, that they say he just eat a couple more carbs than the wide out, put his hand on the ground. Now you got the Brock Bowers, you got the Tyler Warrens of the world to where you can literally run your passing offense through your tight end. You can literally, because most balls are thrown, inside the hatches, inside the numbers. The guys that make $20 million a year, they work outside the numbers, which they're very, very rare. But I do agree with something Fran says. Tyler Warren is about as good as you can play the tight end position. Like, he's about as good as you can play. There are players that have been better than him. I'm not saying that, but they literally let him do everything. Tyler Warren is what every tight end dreams of. Every tight end wants to do one thing. Not catch the ball. We want to throw it. They let him throw it. They let him run it. Obviously, they're going to throw it to him. 98 catches, 1,100 yards. Hey, and I'm just happy for him because it's something about when you have an unstoppable tight end, whether it's college or pro, you can find a way to, do some things with him.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss this opportunity. I don't want to miss this opportunity. Excuse me if I interrupt you, Rob, to get this in because there's changes afoot in Florida. They're going to get a general manager of some kind. And there's change. We know some kind of wild rumors about Will Muschamp. I don't know any of that. But I do know this. I know that Ben knows Rand Carthon really well, former Gator. He was the Titans general manager until a few minutes ago, and he now has been let go. And I know Ben's posted about it. He's not happy. He's been paid for 2 more years. And by the way, what kind of general manager would he make in Florida, Ben?
A common sense one. He would be a guy that has about as much as experience coming into the GM position in college than anybody because he started off, as a scout. Then he went. I mean, he was a free agent, played 3 years in the league. Then he became a scout. Then he became the head of scouting. Then he became the head of personnel decisions. To then go to a team called the Tennessee Titans, who I'm always going to be indebted to them. But then Chad Brinker, the president of football operations, said, look, with the new GM, we want him to have a background in scouting, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna draft, we're gonna develop, and we're gonna retain. What the hell? That's what everybody does. Like, that's what everybody does. When he said
the job description,
I'm just saying, if I'm in Nashville, I go, wait a minute, did you just say that out loud? You want a guy in scouting. This guy went from a scout to the head scout. He worked for the Rams and San Francisco 49ers. Okay. And his dad was the offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys in 2004, and he still went undrafted. So he's gone through the ringer, right? Man. Now you're going to bring in a guy just like him, just a different name. I would love for Rand to come. There's something about coming home for a guy like Rand Carthon to a place like Florida to where he can literally look at Billy Napier and say, I got you. Like when it comes to off the field stuff, and just, I got you, man. Go coach.
You know what else he can do, Ben? If I'm a mama and a daddy, and I'm up there and I'm trying to make a decision about things, I can go. If I sit in his office, because Rand's got a real presence about him. I mean, he can be as fun as it gets. He can be as serious as it gets, and everything in between. But he's well spoken. He is a very, very intelligent guy who comes across not arrogantly. He doesn't come across as arrogantly intelligent, but you walk away from him and you start thinking, well, that's a really smart guy, isn't he? He just has that kind of presence. And if I'm a mom and if I'm a daddy and I got my son there, and I've already talked to Billy Napier, and I'm impressed with Billy's values and thinking, my kid could learn from this guy. And then I come in there to Rand Carthon's office, I could say, holy cow, this guy, Florida's got it going here.
Yes.
That's the kind of guy he is. and it would be really, really good, as far as I'm concerned, to see that happen.
Yeah. I won't be surprised if you don't have a general manager. I met Courtney Morgan, Alabama's GM, and he's been with Kalen DeBoer for a long time. He played football, been at Michigan. He's from California. And when he was a freshman, Tom Brady was the quarterback, and they were both from California. And Brady used to come over there and pull rank on him, wanting his tickets, for friends coming to play. And this guy's a really cool. He goes, anybody ever tell you look like Kirby? I said, what? I look like Kirby Smart. And I'm like, no. But he was telling us what his role is at Alabama. And he said it's like the other general manager at Ole Miss said, to generally manage everybody. Franz is right. Frees the coach up to do more coaching. And I look at Will Redmond from LSU, what he's doing at Auburn. Maybe Hugh Freeze will learn to call some schemes that will be better, but somebody's got to let him coach, because you just can't keep losing like this. But, I picked the Gators to win 8 games because I just have a lot of PTSD from Florida growing up. I've seen a lot of good teams go down there to the swamp and just die, just as soon as they walk into the swamp, they're down 10-0. I just have a lot of memories. But you're right about Florida getting a GM. And here's the question I have for y'all. Y'all, I want to ask y'all this right now. You look in a state like Alabama or Mississippi, you know who the big power players are. There's so damn many people in Florida, 23 million right now that we know of. But how many of these big money people that live in Naples or Palm Beach or wherever are from somewhere else, but now live in Florida and give their big money back home way away to somewhere else? Maybe that's the problem, because there's no lack of wealth. You've got the there's no the intangible tax in Florida. There's no state income tax. There's a ton of money there. I just think you need someone who can identify the native-born Floridians who are Gators that have never been asked to give money before. But I'm just curious y'all's comments on that. By the way, get out there to Landers Ford, $500 off for SEC Sidelines audience, the #1 Ford dealership in the Mid-South. You will love these people. See our friend Brad Bellamy, the general manager. Also, Kenny Myers. Y'all know him. Been in the car, truck, SUV business for 41 years. Started out years ago, CBHS grad, just one of the All-American Wally Cleaver types out there. Landers Ford, open Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. But, Buddy, Franz, Ben, I'm curious what y'all would say about the big money people at Gator. And I've been so blown away by this guy, Freddie Wiebe. I would love to have him on the show to talk to him. But, man, if I went down to Florida being a financial advisor for 34 years, I would have a field day going and talking to these people about, hey, their favorite radio station of wealthy people is WIFI-FM. What's in it for me? Okay? The tax benefits. Because, y'all, I think Florida people are sitting on so much money with people that aren't from there, that live there, that probably would give if asked. Yes or no?
I think they've already tapped that well quite a bit. They got 2 or 3 big donors. And Franz, you can speak to this. Freddie is a good friend of mine, of course, and does a great job. And and he knows. I don't have any information lately. I'm going to try to get Freddie on. He wouldn't want to come on last week. He no longer is in his position that he was with the collective, but he's a very important guy for people to know who he is. He's the managing partner and basically the founder of Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, and he's a brilliant businessman. He's a huge Dale Carnegie fan. He has those classes all the time. He keeps trying to recruit Brendan and me to come to those. And Freddie's a good man. He's a good man. He's a dear. He really loves the Gators. I saw a number. I hate to even put it on there. Someone said Florida has $2 million from their collective. I don't know what those numbers are. In this world, Rob, we have no way to be exact about that. We don't know what they got. Yes, Florida has some guys with deep pockets, but sometimes, Rob, as you know, with Auburn, I won't say anybody's name, Yellowwood. You can get those guys who have deep pockets but also want to run things.
Yes,
and
you have to be careful.
I think college football right now is in kind of a dangerous situation, friends. And I think here's what my thoughts were. I know we got to go soon, but I think it's really important to understand this that you can only serve one. And if the guy's got it's a golden rule, and the guy who gold rules, you got to be a politician. You got to be slippery. You got to be Scott Strickland has to have 9 lives. He's already had 7 of them, and you got to be able to say yes to your coach, and yes to your fan base, and yes to the money guy, and you cannot please them all. So somewhere along the line, Nick Saban's right. College football needs to govern itself better. We all know that. But right now, they're in a very precarious situation. And unfortunately, mighty dollar rules everything.
Yeah. Here's the thing, Florida, the money is there at Florida. Florida's got big bucks available. We just don't have, like, for example, Arkansas has these visible gazillionaires like Warren Stevens, like the Walmart people, like the Reynolds people, the Tyson people, Jerry Jones,
J.B. Hunt,
maybe richer than all of them except the Walmart people. But Florida doesn't have the big gazillionaires that you see, although we got a few of them. But the money's there because you're talking about other than Texas and Texas A&M, the largest basic fan base in the as far as alumni in the entire, maybe in the entire country, but certainly in the SEC. The problem is this: you have to have the leadership that says we're going to not only raise the money, but we're going to make sure that the infrastructure is in place, the leadership is in place to spend it well. I think this is where Ohio State has succeeded so well. The Buckeyes have a marvelous organization, and I give Urban Meyer credit for that. They were good before, but when Urban came there, they streamlined everything. They brought in, for example, a Mark Pantoni to deal with things and so on like that. But they have the most streamlined organization in college football, which is why they had $20 million set aside. You look at Ohio State, you don't see any list of billionaire boosters. But where does all the money come from? The money comes from the fact that they're so well organized. Ohio State's a huge university, as big as Florida, as big as Texas or Texas A&M. You're talking about right there for the maybe 5 or 6 largest universities in the entire country. And they have streamlined their operation. And that's what it's going to take at Auburn, at Florida. You want to play in this arena, and you want to be successful in this arena, you better have a business plan.
Yeah.
That is second to none.
Correct.
And that what you see on the field is going to be the same, whether there's big money, small money, whatever. Players are going to play. Talented guys are going to be on the field at every school. Now, here's where one difference is, I will tell you, though. For example, Vanderbilt, which never could get high school kids in, Vanderbilt now can say, well, I can't get a high school kid in that can play left tackle for me, but I can go out there and get with NIL money and get him in school now because he's got 3 years of college. He has 3 years of college credits to his credit. And this has been a problem at the University of Florida, too. Ben can attest to this. You cannot be a recruit at the University of Florida if you don't have the academics. And the reason is, as Ben can tell you, you're out there competing with kids that made 1,400 on their SAT. When you go to class, you better have your academic act together.
Ben, you know what? Florida is academically, it's an elite school. It is. But you know what's crazy? Larry Ellison, whose girlfriend or wife, whatever, was the one who pushed to spend the $10 million on the quarterback Bryce Underwood. that was committed to LSU for about a year. Oracle's moving their headquarters to Nashville. Larry Ellison will be buying homes in Belmead, I'm sure, Williamson County. What if, like Fran says, he gets excited about Vanderbilt athletics? They've got 35 or 40 families up there in Belmead and Nashville area that the same people they've always called on. I know a lot of people in my family went to Vanderbilt. What if they do get excited about sports? But Ben, tell us from your perspective. I mean, when you got money, and we'll wrap it up here, but when you got that money as a rookie, I love you. You were like Eugene V. Krabs from SpongeBob SquarePants. I'll put it away there and save. You had a really great core financial advisors. I think they were accountants. Just said, Ben, act like you're making $50,000 a year. I tell you what.
Wait. Hold on. Key point. See that thing right behind Ben right there? That's full of Tennessee Titan money right there. That thing right behind.
Well, okay. But let me tell you something. Ben, we had Dan Williams on the show. I've gotten to know Dan in Memphis. Dan played at Tennessee 05 to 09. I used to watch him in high school pull tractor tires and do all this incredible training at East High School in Memphis. They didn't have a big weight room or anything. All the guys came from Binghamton. They call it the Hamp. Him and Malcolm Rawls. And I said, man, my kids and I used to say, look at those guys. And I said, those guys are going to make it in the NFL. By God, he was a first-round pick of the Cardinals in April of 2010. And Dan, Tennessee Vol, 5 years, he told me at the Touchdown Club one night this fall, he said, I took all my money I got and locked it up. He said, they give you a per diem in the NFL to live on, and food, lodging, everything's paid for. He saved all of his money. Now he's got a foundation for literacy and stuff that my wife, Audrey, has already, she's on board. She's going to help. Of course, being Evolved for Life, it's fun for her. But I love what Ben Troop did.
All right, wait a minute. Now to clarify something, ain't no big deal rolling a tractor tire, okay?
Yeah,
when Brendan was at Bonavedra playing before Tebow did, playing football there.
I wore 15 at Nice High School before Tebow did.
Yeah, and they used to roll by. He weighed 145 pounds as a tight end, Ben. Just so you know.
Ben?
Brendan,
yes.
145-pound tight end.
Called me Coors Light.
Would have been the starter the next year. Kind of the coach on the team that finished the runner-up of the state.
No, we moved back to Denver. We moved back to Denver. What are you talking about?
I said, had you been there, Coach Toby showed you the board. Here's where you would be. Runner-up in the state championship.
I was listed as in a magazine, like recruiting magazine, for like 2 seconds. He was
physical specimen. They used to roll bicycle tires, just so you know, okay?
Roll bicycle tires. I was 145 pounds as a sophomore playing varsity. They used to light me up like a Christmas tree. I came from Colorado, and all I did was just catch balls in the middle, and they would hit me as hard as they could, and I'd just get up and just in pain and look at them and be like, that's all you got? That's all you got? And then I would limp to the sidelines on the practice squad, and coach would be like, God dang, Coors Light from Colorado. I don't know your name. Your name's Coors Light.
Well, Ben, I'm old enough to remember when my parents
killed me. Colorado to Florida football. That's a big jump in high school.
Well, Colorado, speaking of Coors Light and Coors,
ain't the same kind of football.
I remember in the mid and late 70s when my parents would be out in Denver or Aspen, they would bring back 2 cases of Coors beer.
Yeah, you
couldn't get it, and it was like Smokey and the Bandit.
It was like Black Market. You had to.
It was. It was. People, you had to cover it up in a blanket. Well, Ben, thinking about that, and I look at Dan Williams, he's 6'3", 320. He's a big human, and he's smart, very smart, and saving that money. But you look at it, NIL, talking about getting the money for the Gators. Would you ever want to go solicit funds and from a player's perspective? I think you'd be a very, very powerful influencer for the right things to do with that money.
It really depends on like how much of my influence I could have on it and not be told what I can and can't do, can and can't say.
Gloves off.
If gloves is off, because I'll get it. I'm not Coach Spurrier, but I would take the Coach Spurrier model, aka I'm not doing all that. I'll do this.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna do that because if you let them pick, man, you're gonna be. It's like you on a freaking tour. You're gonna be out there all the time. But even the friend's point and the buddy's point, the easiest way to get money is to win. It's the easiest way to get people to say yeah, because you got to think the average person in Florida knows of Florida, but they're not root for them. Now a lot of people do, but if every time we turn on the tube, we see this Florida Gator, because even with the Vanderbilt thing, if that guy you talk about at Vanderbilt going to invest in athletics, it's going to be baseball. Yeah, he can invest what he wants in football because whatever he gives, that's what the Vols going to give. Because they're going to say, you see what they're doing at Vanderbilt? So, I'm not saying that Vanderbilt shouldn't get the investment in just a place like Florida. People look at Florida two ways. Either you really need my money, because they think because the perception is Florida already got it, which they do.
Exactly.
But what do the elite want more of? What they already have. You can never say we got enough. But if you talk about Florida as a whole, yeah, they're gonna have to. They're gonna, as Fran said, you got to have a business model and you got to stick to it. You got to have a plan that you can adjust it, but you still got to stick to the plan. Because if not, you're gonna be throwing a whole bunch of ideas or something. No, let's figure out what works. Let's figure out how to make sure it keeps working because NIL is here to stay. Listen, people don't like taxes, they pay them. People don't like going to work, they go. People don't like doing a lot of things. It is our job, to help them understand this is what it is. This is how we grow. This is how we win. And you got to give them, and you got to make them a promise that you can keep, which I think the hardest thing for any brand is that brand promise. People don't go to Chick-fil-A because they got the best food. They go to Chick-fil-A because they got the best service. The food is good, but the service is better. So you got to have something that when people think of you, they think of something. If I'm a up and coming company and I got the best, like Under Armour type stuff, I'm not Under Armour. So people want my stuff, but I got to introduce myself. Well, Florida don't need no introduction, right? They need a better explanation as to why you want your money. Because, like I said, I'm an alumni of Florida. Yeah, if Florida's wanting my money, I know what they want it. I know why they want it. But you're gonna have to, make me feel as though my money is going to something because you want my money. Do I get influenced with my money? Probably not.
Yeah.
But I do know that all you got to do with NIL is this. If I'm Rob Brown, financial group, hey, if I give my money, I want twice a year that, Auburn athletics has to come. I come down there and I'm giving a class on financial literacy. That is not a hard step. It's because I do believe that what Deion Sanders said, look, the only reason why I listen to my financial advisors is because Aaron Kenny came to me and said, you making good money. You want to keep making good money? You better go over there with Covenant Partners. And they showed me how much money I really had, how much money I was really spending. And now when I look at Miss Mickey and all those people that work there, they never told me I couldn't have my money. They told me, if you want to live away from football like you did with football, you better listen to us. And we have a billionaire client, and we don't steal from him. Basically, they're telling me, you don't make enough money for us to steal from you. You don't make it.
You know what the hardest thing is about Florida, just from my perspective looking at it, is just like when I've worked on fundraising for my school, 99% of the people out there think there's 5 or 6 people that are going to pay for everything. And they've never been asked. And once you ask them and you appeal to their ego, they will very likely give. But also, like Buddy said, you have to be careful about 1 or 2 people having so much influence that a power cabal is created and they run everything. And y'all know how that can be. It's like Nick Saban, when he came to Alabama, he wanted somebody to be his go-to guy in Tuscaloosa, but it wasn't Paul Bryant Jr. because he said he's too influential. He did get someone else. I know who it is. It's a guy my age. They talk every morning at 7:13 a.m. Saban's OCD, like I am. That's the only thing we have in common. but anyway, we'll wrap it up, man. This is fun, man. I feel like it's 10 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock Central, buddy. I'm getting sleepy.
It's getting that day. Hey, you guys are fantastic. It was a great show, everybody. Brendan, great job on the producing.
Awesome job, Brendan.
I hope we'll do this again. Let me just say again, if I may, thank you to my sponsors, The Buddy Martin Show will be no show tonight. We, of course, got the big game. Meldon Law, Titan MRI and Imaging now, and Ren Star Medical Research. Thank you to all Rob's fine sponsors, and great job, fellas. Thank you very much.
Hey, and everybody remember, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We're the most blessed country in the history of the world. Everybody on this group here knows what we're talking about. We can help other people. Watch our show. Tell your friends, your families, and neighbors. And for EPBM, number 15, before number 15 was cool. Awesome job. Time for another hat from you.
I promise you right now, I was still cooler in Tebow than in high school.
You still are cool.
I had way more cool.
The fact that Buddy couldn't wait to tell that story, he's still mad at that coach. Like, why is he number 2 on the depth chart?
Yeah, Buddy Martin. All right, hey, we're gonna get him number 1 on that chart.
Wait till I tell you the story about how he saved the team from 2-a-days and a complete revolt from actually the whole team walking out. Buddy had to save the day.
Wilton for president. Wilton for president. I love that name. I love.
Good night, everybody. Good night, John Boy. See you, Smoke. Bye, Francis. Good night, Dad.
Good night, everybody.
Everybody.
Thanks to all of our sponsors.
Thanks for coming in. Yeah, you guys are amazing. Good night. Good night. Good night.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.